Corbin Carroll, maybe a little off pitch. Let's talk about it, bud. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 78 of Bringing the Heat. My name's Cody Pite. With me, as always, the four-seam fastball of co-host, Will Sism. Buddy, we are back. It's been like 2 weeks since we've hopped on the mic. We'll get to why in a second, but before we do, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. Back better than ever. It's good to see your face again. And I think the best question is, how are you doing?
Dude, doing great. I think anybody listening to this probably understands why. I think we missed a week there. I don't know. The days, the nights, they're really blending together. And that is because we welcomed our daughter into the world a week ago. And her name's Miss Jane. She's fantastic. She's the best. She's a great baby. Sleeps really well. Sorta, just grading by the baby curve. So, lots of daddy diaper duty. Absolutely loving it. That's where we get our quality time.
Right.
But hey, shout out to my wife, Claire. She's doing an incredible job. And so hey, we've missed stuff, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. In the last 2 weeks of the baseball season, I was talking to Will before we got on. I think there's 10 pages we could have put together on a spreadsheet, but we couldn't. I mean, so many things, but we had our hands tied with more important things. So definitely a blessing, but it is good to be back with you, my friend. Let's dive in. We got a ton of fun stuff. We got some breaking news to hit. We're going to look at the standings. We got our heat check and had a bad day player of the week. We're going to talk about what's on the grill with Will, and man, got some stuff I want to run past you. We're going to talk about your Rays, rankings and fallers, risers and fallers, that is. We got infield, outfield, and pitcher. So some guys that are, overachieving, underachieving. And then the Roman Candle Pick-to-Click Player of the Week is back. Remember last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago, we tied because everybody got hurt. So
Yep.
It's 1-0. We're going to see if it's tied at 1-1. Bryce Harper was your pick. Great pick. We're going to talk about it, okay? Let's dive in with some breaking news, man. And this is, you're talking about number one Bummersville, Mike Trout. I mean, just out of nowhere. I just stunned. Mouth open on the couch, holding the baby. Mike Trout to have knee surgery due to a torn meniscus in his left leg. They're saying he'll miss 4 to 6 weeks. He was off to a great start. Average wasn't there, 220, but everything else was. 10 home runs, 14 RBIs, and 6 steals. Raw thoughts, dude. I know this one hurts.
Yeah, man. I was just as shocked as you were when I saw the news, and I texted you immediately. I was like, holy smoke, Mike Trout is hurt again. But, I just hate it for him. I hate it for the game of baseball because he's not that old. But, man, the guy just can't stay on the field, these past couple of seasons. And like you said, I thought he was off to a really good start. I mean, I know the average looks low, but he actually looked really good. He was stealing bases again this year so far.
Yep.
And I was like, man, this is a great sign if Mike Trout's feeling good enough to steal bases again like he is. And, then you get hit with this. And, 4 to 6 weeks in the grand scheme of things isn't too long, but I just hope that, if that is the case, he's able to return 100% and can finish out the year, man, because baseball needs Mike Trout on the field.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Angels need him. I just think from a long-term perspective, especially for the Angels, if, whatever the plan is with Mike Trout, whether that's for him to be an Angel his whole entire career or at some point does he get moved, whenever that might be. But in order for them to get peak value or whatever value is out there in the marketplace for him, he has got to stay healthy. So here's to just hoping that he's able to come back, get 100%, and play out the rest of the season when he does get back.
Yeah, man, there was a time with this guy that you can guarantee. I mean, the first, 6 years of his career, 5 out of them he played 140 games or more, and then the year 3 through 6 or 7 rather, it was 157, 157, 159, 159. So this guy was a pillar of health, and now he had the back stuff, and it
Right.
wasn't something that he was going to recover from. And he'd come out, and everybody in fantasy was super excited because he come out and said, "I'm going to steal," and everybody knows the stealing base category. It's not almost. It's about A, can they actually do it, but B, like intent to steal. Some guys
Right.
can, just don't. And so we were really excited about that, and then for this to just come out and happen, super duper bummer. Man, if you're LA, and we're going to talk about it in the standings in a second, falling in the standings, I don't know what you're going to see when this guy's not here. I mean,
Yeah.
Reed Detmers, maybe.
Yeah.
But he's looked
Logan
rough.
O'Hop.
Hoppy, yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
dude. I don't know. Hey, real quick question, and then we'll move on. He's under contract till 2029.
Mm-hmm.
This is twofold. Do you think he finishes his career in LA? And if the Angels don't make the playoffs again, do you think they'll look at this contract as a success?
Second part's tough.
No doubt.
I would be very surprised if he ends his career in LA, just because I don't see LA being competitive in that division in the next minimum 2 years. I mean, I'm talking minimum 2 years. I don't see them being competitive. And I mean, you're talking about a guy who's already getting injured. He's in his, what is he, 33? Is that right?
32.
32.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, again, he's not old.
Yeah.
But as the injuries start piling up, man, I don't know how many really, really good years we've got left of Mike Trout. And I have to believe, I know he's saying all the right things and he wants to be an Angel and all that kind of stuff. But at some point over the next year or two, if the Angels haven't shown signs of turning this thing around, I would be shocked if he continues to, stay there, if the Angels just don't decide to move him.
Yeah.
As far as the second part of that question, I can't say that the contract's a failure. I mean, this guy is a first ballot Hall of Famer, all-time talent.
Yeah.
It's just a shame, to be honest with you, that the Angels haven't been able to put a team together around him all these years that's been competitive enough to, make a run at it. I mean, they had arguably two of the top two players in all of baseball these past few years with him and Ohtani, and they still couldn't really sniff the playoffs. And so kind of shame on the organization there, but I can't say that the contract's any sort of a, bad deal or anything like that. Anytime you lock down a generational player, I don't think you can really complain about it, to be honest.
Yep. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I don't know where he goes. The only reason why he would stay in LA is, I think, kind of why he hasn't moved yet is the fact that he's like, I'm content here.
Yeah.
And I guess it's not an indictment to say he doesn't care about winning, because I don't think that's true, but I don't think he's going to win here.
No.
But yeah, I mean, we watched him in the World Baseball Classic last last preseason.
Yep.
And it was just so much fun to watch him in a competitive environment. So, man, if we could see this guy in October healthy, it would be great for this game of baseball, no doubt.
Yeah. Feels like got some Cal Ripken Jr. vibes, with Baltimore, like how he stayed with Baltimore his whole career. And Mike Trout's an even better player, in my opinion, than Ripken, but just kind of feels that way to me, especially if he ends up staying.
Yeah, he's going for his record. He's going to come back from his knee injury. He's going to go. Just kidding. That's a joke. Hey, moving on. Speaking of Baltimore, we're gonna look at these standings, and they are the top team in the American League East. A little standings recap here. Well, Baltimore Orioles 19-10, a game back. The Yankees 19-12. The Red Sox 16-13. Then you get their Blue Jays 15-15, and the Rays 14-16. We'll talk about it in the Central, dude. This division is one juicy division. Okay. You got the Guardians 19-9, Royals 17-13, Tigers 16-13, Twins. Look out for the Twins. Red hot 15-13. They are they are on a roll. And then you got the White Sox 6-23. Moving on. In the West, the Mariners 16-13. You picked the Rangers. I picked Houston. Mariners said, I got this. Don't worry about it. Rangers in second place, a game back, 15-14. Athletics, third place, 13-17. The Angels, 11-18. And Houston 9-19, 6.5 back. Up first in the American League, buddy. What stands out to you?
Man, I tell you what, this is it's fun right now, man. I mean, the East honestly feels a lot like how I kind of thought it would go. It feels like a two-team race. Baltimore and New York are both legit. Let's see what New York looks like, assuming Garrett Cole gets back at some point in the next month or two. Um, but it feels like those two teams are going to just run away and hide from the rest of the division to me. Man, the Central is probably honestly the biggest surprise to me in all of baseball as far as how good those teams have been out of the gates. The Guardians look like I thought they were going to look last year. They're a year late on my watch, but the Guardians are good, man. I like the way they play. Stephen Vogel's doing an incredible job as a first-time manager. Yep. Shout out to him. Early candidate for AL Manager of the Year right there.
For sure.
But you said it. Minnesota's red hot right now. Kansas City's is way better. Detroit is not bad. They just need to find some offense. So the Central's fun, man. It feels like the Central, it's all going to depend on who catches fire and can sustain kind of a hot stretch like Minnesota's going through right now and see who can do that throughout the year. And then the West, man, your guess is as good as mine.
Sure.
Seattle, I've said it all along. I love that pitching, but man, they just struggle to score. And I get serious Milwaukee Brewers of the past few years vibes from them. Yeah. If they get in the playoffs, they're scary just because how good they pitch. But I don't trust that offense whatsoever. Texas is the exact opposite. The lineup's incredible. Pitching is not. And let's see if the Astros can turn this thing around. They're starting to get a little bit more healthy. Obviously they beat up on the Rockies down in Mexico City, so let's see if that can jumpstart them. But man, it feels like this is going to be a tight race throughout really the whole season because every team in that division is flawed, and it's just going to be a matter of who can overcome those flaws the best, quite honestly, in my opinion.
Yep. Maybe who makes moves at the deadline to supplement the issues that they have. Because I feel like you look at every team, and like you said, they have a pretty clear shortfall. So let's see what happens, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Moving to the National League, dude. In the East, we'll talk about two top dogs here. The Atlanta Braves, 19-8, and the Phillies, 19-11. Said, hey, maybe we'll take home field advantage this year, okay?
Right.
You get your Mets at 14-14, Washington Nationals 14-14, and the Marlins 6-24.
Woof.
Or whatever a fish says. Fish don't bark, but we'll get back to you guys on that. We'll let you know what fish say. The Cubs in the Central, 18-11. Milwaukee, 17-11. 16-13 is the record of the Cincinnati Reds. They're 2 games back. You got the Cardinals, 14-15, trying to get back to 500. And Pittsburgh, is it too late for them? 14-16. We'll talk about it. In the West, man, what about the Dodgers? They hurt us. Okay, we were coming at them last episode.
Yeah, woke them up.
Yeah, it sure did. 7-3 in their last 10, and they are 19-12 overall. 4 games up on the San Francisco Giants, 14-15. Padres, 14-18. They're playing like they did last year. It's good to see it. Diamondbacks, 13-17, 5.5 back, and then you got the Rockies, 7-21. Buddy, National League, take it away.
Man, the East, kind of like the AL East, total 2-team race. Honestly, those might be the 2 best teams in. Heck, it might be the 2 best teams in all of baseball, but much less the National League. Phillies and Braves, man, I think that's going to be just a fun race to follow all season long. Those 2 teams, as long as they stay relatively healthy, man, those 2 teams are really, really good.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what, the Central is a lot of fun. I hate that the Pirates can't score any runs because they've got some talented arms now. We'll talk about Paul Skeens more as the season goes along, but let's see kind of what they do with him. But man, Pittsburgh's got to get some offense, man. They can't waste some of this talent that's coming up. But man, the rest of the Central is so much fun. I mean, the Cubs look really good to me. The Reds are a lot of fun. Let's see if their front office will step up to the plate and do what they need to do to capitalize on these talented hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest surprise to me, honestly, in the whole National League is the Brewers. William Contreras is under the radar one of the best players in the National League, in my opinion, regardless of position.
He'll be blue chip next year.
He
right?
is absolutely legit. Yes. Honestly, he's a dark horse MVP candidate as of right now.
Yeah.
So shout out to the Brewers. I did not see that coming. And so let's see how that unfolds. And then the West, I tell you what, talking about how exciting the Central is, I'm so disappointed in the West outside of the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Like, the Dodgers are what we think they are. The Dodgers are really good. They're going to be fine. They're not going to win 120 games like some people thought, but they're going to be totally fine. But man, the rest of that division feels like a mess right now. The Giants can't get it together. The Rockies are awful. The Padres are basically doing what they did last year, super inconsistent. And then the Diamondbacks, man, they just, what's up with Corbin Carroll? Like, what's up with, they're dealing with some injuries and they can't overcome them. And so the Diamondbacks are in trouble right now. And so it's a one-team race in the NL West, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Dodgers kind of, I don't want to say coast through the year.
Yes.
But how they manage, they're going to manage on a different level than anybody else in this division, because it's going to be about keeping people healthy to play in October, because these other four teams just haven't figured it out. I mean, I'm not totally out on the Diamondbacks. I think a lot of the guys that went last year had magical runs. Aren't hitting that same stride. Obviously, we're going to talk about Corbin Carroll on what's on the grill with Will, but Brandon Pfaadt hasn't looked the same. He looked okay the other night, but overall he's got hit around. And then you got Erod, big signing. He's hurt. Monty's looked pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll see what happens. Still waiting on Sewald to get back, so we'll see with the Diamondbacks. There's a lot to like, and hey, Will, there's a lot to love with this next segment, bud. Well, I'm talking about. I made smash burgers today. I told Claire, I said, hey, don't leave me at home for 3 weeks. All right, I'm gonna watch YouTube videos on how to make good hamburgers. Okay, so that's what that sound made me think of.
Yes.
Hey, it's time. It's not time for burger talk, even though I think maybe in the off season we bring that in. Okay.
Yeah.
It's time for the Heat Check Player of the Week, buddy. Who went off this week?
Man, I'm going to Philadelphia. Alec Boehm is hotter than that sizzle that was just on the soundboard there. Alec Boehm has been tearing the cover off the ball, literally. Get this, in his last, let me pull it up here. In his last 10 games leading up to tonight's game, he has multiple hits in 7 of his last 10 games. He's got a current 13-game hit streak. The Phillies have moved him to hitting cleanup in that lineup, and we know how good that lineup is.
Yeah.
Man, this feels like a full-on breakout for Alec Boehm this year. I've watched some Phillies games, and to be honest with you, before this year, Alec Boehm felt like one of those guys. I'm like, man, this guy should be better than what he is, because he was a pretty hyped up prospect several years ago, and he's just been he's been good, not great.
Yeah.
But man, he looks different this year, and he's been really, really impressive, especially this past week.
Yeah, dude, I saw that stat you were referencing about 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, dude. That's awesome. It's unbelievable. Here's my question for you. You got him in fantasy.
Yeah.
You drafted him later rounds. Maybe you picked him up off the wire in shorter leagues. Are you selling high on this guy?
I mean, I don't fault anybody if they want to try to sell high on him. But man, here's my thing. I'm a big believer when teams move guys into key positions in a lineup, especially on a really good team, that feels like it's a validation because the team is also believing in what he's doing. And so when the Phillies have moved him into the cleanup spot, hitting behind Bryce Harper every game.
Mm-hmm.
That feels to me like, okay, our organization really thinks this guy's a legit pillar in this lineup. And so I think he's not going to bat 500,
Sure.
don't get me wrong. But do I think he could be a top 30 player the rest of the way? Absolutely, I do, especially hitting fourth in that lineup. So here's the thing. If you want to sell high, I don't fault you. But me, I've got him in one of our leagues. I am holding on to this guy unless somebody gives me an offer I literally can't refuse.
Yeah. So, okay, well, I was going to ask, if someone offered you like Alex Bregman, someone who's been off to a putrid start, but we know the back of the baseball card's there and he will come around eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Would you flip him?
For Alex Bregman?
Uh-huh.
No chance.
No chance. Isaac Paredes?
No.
No. Wow, 0 for 2. I would absolutely I'd do both of those things.
Would you really?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, God. I'm not a big believer in Bregman for a fantasy team, though. Like, I think Bregman's a way better real-life player than he is fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I don't know. Not 29 home runs and almost, what was he, 25 and 98 last year? 23 and 93. Listen.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I really do think that Bohm is legit.
Yeah. It's the perfect sell high, buy low scenario for me right now. Okay. Hey, good to know. My heat check player of the week this week, Elly De La Cruz. All right. And I feel like I have to raise my hand again because a couple weeks ago I got on this mic and did the same conversation about Anthony Volpe. When we did our draft targets and people to avoid list, this guy was in my early round people to avoid. So everybody's coming out here and making me eat crow. That's okay. Not my favorite flavor of bird. I'm a chicken man myself. I had him on my do not draft list. And a lot of it was because of where you were having to get them. You have to get them a late second, early third round. Well, guess what, guys? If you made that choice, if you took that chance, you're reaping the benefits, man. If you're playing in a league, any kind of category league, you're winning stolen bases every week. 8 steals last week. He's lapping the competition. Has 18 steals. He's rocking a 280 average, 8 home runs, 19 RBIs. He scored 26 runs. I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
Strikeout rate still 30%.
Yeah.
So there's a world. His first, I think, 30 games last year looked very similar to this.
Yes.
Is there what I would be knocking on doors, maybe trying to sell high on this guy? And when I say sell high, first round talent. I'm saying Judge. I'm saying Tatis. I think there's a world. You're going to think I'm crazy, maybe more crazy than the Bregman comp. I think somebody would come off of Ronald Acuna. I'm not saying in any league we play in, but I think somebody could come off of Acuna just because of A, how exciting Elly is, and then B, I mean, listen, Acuna's been fine. But I think he's got one jack right now.
Yes.
So I would be trying to flip this guy. That being said, he had an incredible week and definitely my heat check player of the week. Hey, you would you try and sell him, or are you holding on and enjoying the ride?
Oh, I tell you what, that's a tough question. That's a much tougher question than the previous Alec Bohm question.
If you could get Tatis or Julio, would you make that trade? 2 guys. I
would be very tempted. Here's the only hesitation with De La Cruz, and I've kind of said this all along. Like when we were talking about him in the off season, I know that you kind of were very skeptical, and I was a little bit skeptical as well. But I did always say, I said, this guy is one of the rare guys that at some point in the future, he could be the number 1 overall fantasy player in the league. Like, he has that kind of talent.
Yeah.
And so that's honestly the only hesitation with me right now. Like, do I worry about his strikeout rate? Yes. Do I think the average is going to regress a little bit? Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. When he's hot like he is now, he is literally a guy that can win you a week if you play in a week-to-week, especially like a category league.
Mm-hmm.
he can literally carry your whole team. And there's not that many players out there
Yeah.
that even when they get hot, they can literally carry your team. We know that we've got a guy in our league right now that's leading our league that has him.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he is a big reason
Big time.
that he's off to such an incredible start. And so, again, to answer your question, would I entertain some offers? Sure. But it'd have to be really, really juicy for me to move off of him. I mean, just because of the talent. I mean, worst case scenario, the guy's going to steal 80 bases if he stays healthy.
Yeah, he
I
is
mean,
running.
he really
I was going to
is.
say, yeah, listen, he's not scared. If he gets on first, he might
He's
steal
going.
two. He is not scared to steal third base. I mean,
No.
because he just knows. It was
Yeah.
like, who the heck's the backup catcher for the Phillies? Wasn't Real Muto. I can
Oh,
picture
yeah.
his face, but I'm blanking on his name. But I was
Yeah.
watching the Phillies Reds the other night, and I was telling Claire, I was like, he's going. I mean, he cannot throw him out. He knows he's going. It's not even a question. He went back-to-back pitches, stole second, stole third. Weren't close.
He's a bigger version of Ronald Acuna that strikes out more, is basically what he is.
Yeah. He's O'Neill Cruz with better bat-to-ball skills.
Yeah, and a little bit better discipline, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Hey, honorable mention to Max Fried, man. Had to shout him out because he has looked, listen, start of the year, a little rough. Last two starts, got back on track. How about 15 scoreless innings, 13 strikeouts combined? One of those was a complete game shutout against the Marlins. All right, so, double-A team.
Did you just hear that window shut? That was his buy low window that just shut.
Buy low. That's pretty good, dude. Yeah, no, it's gone. Yeah, I would say it's over. Yeah. In fact, it probably went the other way. You'd have to overpay big time.
Yep.
Listen, this guy stays healthy. It's almost unbelievable. You could have a team lose their ace in Strider and still be okay. And it just kind of like, I mean, Braves fans aren't even fretting, dude. They are like strutting to the best record. And should have won last night. AJ Minter cannot close games. Don't do it. Don't go
Braves,
to him.
Don't put AJ Minter in the ninth inning. Like, please.
The only reason he should close a game is if he pitches in the eighth and they cancel it due to rain in the ninth. Okay. I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy is I thought I was gonna get a save in like a deeper league. It's like hard to get saves in that league. And I was like, oh, here we go. 3-2 count, just right down the middle.
Yeah.
Like, what about a get right pitch? For our main man, not Haniger. Mitch Garver. Thank you. Those guys are too similar to me. It's too late.
You know what's crazy though? AJ Minter might be the best setup guy in all of baseball now.
Yeah.
And you put him in the ninth inning though, and it is just a completely different guy. It's unbelievable.
Tell you what, you put AJ Minter in the ninth inning, and you're setting yourself up for. Because you had a bad day, you take one down. Moving on, man. Hey, listen, you're right on. He's not our bad day player of the week, but it wasn't a great showing by him. Tell me about the guy you went with. I agree with you. I see it on the spreadsheet. Tell me about him.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, I really like this guy. He's the one guy in Toronto that I actually like. But you talk about a guy off to an ice cold start. Bo Bichette, man. What is going on? I mean, this guy, I thought 2 years ago, I thought this guy was going to be like a perennial batting champion that also had the ability to hit 25, maybe 30 home runs. Not to say that he doesn't necessarily have that ability any longer, but he just looks lost compared to what we have gotten used to or expecting out of Bo Bichette. So get this. Basically, I'm just looking mainly over his past week of games, and his last 7 games that he's played in, he has a total of 3 hits. Yeah. Like, think about that. Like, this is a guy who nobody going into the last year or two, if you told him anybody that Bo Bichette would lead the whole league in hits, they wouldn't bat an eye.
Yeah.
You know? And so for this guy to only have 3 hits in his last 7 games played, man, that is unbelievable to me. Yeah, let's see if he can turn around. I mean, you can call this a buy low opportunity, and theoretically it is. But
Sure.
man, guys who just look lost,
Yeah.
that scares me, man. Like sometimes,
Yeah.
like yes, usually the back of the baseball card doesn't lie,
Hmm.
but man, sometimes guys just get in a bad funk in a bad way,
Yep.
and it might take them a while to get out of it. So I would say proceed with caution. If you feel good about a buy low opportunity, obviously go for it. But man, he has looked bad, chasing a lot of bad pitches every time I watch him play.
Yeah. Yeah. Just looking at the underlying stuff, ISO is 0.095. So that's a stat talking about how hard you hit the ball.
Yeah.
OPS, everybody knows what that is, 568. I mean, he is just not okay. Hitting the ball 52% of the time into the ground. So I think
Yep.
he's been watching Vladdy do his thing.
Yeah.
There's a conversation we could have for another
Yep.
day that you actually mentioned this week is like, which one of these guys? It was all about, are they going to extend them both? Probably can't do both. Which one are you going to extend?
Right.
They both looked bad. And
Yes.
you want to know why Toronto's 500 with their pitching the way it's been, not bad. Obviously, Gossman got off to a little bit of a rocky start, but he has looked great in his last couple of outings. Barrios has looked good.
Yeah.
The offense will not go. It will not go. And you're looking at, Springer, subpar. The top 4 in that lineup, other than Justin Turner, they moved him up to the 4th spot. Talk about a guy no one ever talks about, but just does the dang thing. I think he's batting over 300. He's a stud.
Might be one of the most underrated just players. I'm not going to call him a superstar, but one of the most underrated stars in all of the game.
Yeah, he was the best hitter behind Devers last year in Boston.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, yep, this is what he does.
And Dalton Varsho, speaking of the Jays, has looked better this year so far.
Yeah, he had a really. I think he had like I don't know. I think he had like 6 home runs. He's looking good, man.
Yeah.
And he'll run. So they gotta get the top 3 going in Toronto, and we'll see what we get.
Yep.
Dude, you went shortstop? I'll go shortstop. Corey Seager, man, this is a guy I went to bat for a lot pre-draft. I actually liked him over Trey Turner just because I thought, okay, Trey's going to help you 5 categories. No questions there. I thought Corey Seager was a better 4-category contributor. Take away the steals. 2 of us, we're not big steals guys. We don't super care about that stat. Not looked good here recently. Talk about 3 for 36. I'm starting to wonder if the missed time in the spring might have something to do with it. But yeah, it's popping a lot of balls. Just I feel like every time I watch him, it's a pop up on the infield, or it's just not, he's not squaring anything up. So, Texas will go when he does. The duo of him and Simeon. Well,
Simeon hasn't been great either.
No, and so we'll see. It's been a weird start for a lot of teams, man. This was a tough decision. I almost put Vinny P on here twice. It had been twice in 3 weeks. There are a lot of guys just not hitting right now, and I know that's tough as a little, public service announcement. That is tough for fantasy baseball, man. I have a team. 5 days, my team has not hit over 200 the last 5 days. But before that, they were crushing the ball. You're just sitting there like, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. You don't want to overreact, but you don't want to underreact. It's kind of the in head-to-head, week-to-week kind of stuff. It is it's tricky. Rotisserie, you can kind of hang out and trust the bounce back a little bit more, but week to week, when you're losing to people you think you should beat, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, and I'll say this just to close the book on those thoughts. I mean, obviously we're still in the month of April. We're just over a month into the season. But here's kind of my rule. Once we get over the 40 game mark, which we're quickly approaching, once we get over the 40 game mark for all these teams, we can no longer say it's early.
Yeah.
Because once you get to the 40 game mark, you kind of know what you're getting, in most cases. And 40 games is enough of a sample size to be able to kind of figure out, okay, this is kind of where we're heading. This is what this team's doing, yada, yada, yada. And so, again, once we get to that 40 game mark, we can't say it's early anymore. Like, it's like, we're kind of past that, and it's time to figure some stuff out, if you're a team or a fantasy owner out there.
Yeah. No, At some point, it's not early anymore. I love that. I think it's different for everybody, but I'm kind of with you.
Yeah,
The
40
decision,
games.
yeah, the decisions you make after that, though, I mean, it's tough. It is. It
Yeah,
can be tough because I don't
because
know.
40 games is a fourth of the season.
That's true. It's good math right there. And we
It
always say
is,
this isn't a math pod, but look out for us.
right?
Okay. I love it, man. Hey, let's move on to what's on the grill with Will. A couple of topics that I really want to get your. I just want to bend your ear on, man. This is crazy stuff here. The Carol. It's off pitch. If you're wondering what I mean by that, my wife had this great thing like a Christmas caroler, who's just really bad at singing. I was like, that's a great idea. I don't know how to use it, but I'm going to put it on there, and I'll explain it. Corbin Carroll, the reigning NL Rookie of the Year, started his 24 campaign ice cold. Talk about an average of 196 with 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 13 runs scored, and 8 steals. The underlying stuff looks awful. The K rate and walk rate they're both improved. Everything else is absolutely putrid. It's terrible. ISO, WOBA, slugging, hard hit rate, worst in the league. Worst in the league. D-backs moved him down to 7. He's been hitting 8 the last couple of games. This is tough, man. Critics are going to say it's the shoulder. He's only had 1 home run. It zapped a lot of his power in the second half of the year last year. I mean, what are you doing here, man? Are you benching? You trading? Are you just kind of like what? You can't drop. He's actually on the Yahoo you can't drop list. You cannot drop him,
Right?
And you shouldn't.
No,
you shouldn't. But what are you doing with this guy? And what are you seeing on this?
Yeah, you definitely can't drop him. Even if you're in a league that would allow you to drop him, like don't drop him, right? Man, this one's tough because here's the thing. I get we're 1 month in, but man, it has been bad.
Yeah.
And I mean bad. There is no sugarcoating this. The only saving grace for me right now is you mentioned it. The K rate and the walk rate are both okay, right? They're a little bit better than they have been.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the alarming thing for me, though. A lot of people kind of wanted to overlook, and you alluded to this, but a lot of people going into this season that had him as a top 5 pick overall, they, for whatever reason, kind of overlooked that second half he had a year ago. And if you look at the 162 games or whatever amount of games he played last year, like the stat line looks great.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really look under the hood and you see what he kind of did in that, let's just say the second half, because I traded for him mid-year last year, and I had him in one of the leagues for the second half, and I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, man, he's a good player, but I'm kind of underwhelmed. Honestly, I was thinking that whole time last year, and I had a good team around him, so it wasn't a huge deal to me. But I was just like, I'm kind of underwhelmed. So anyways, going into this year, I feel like that was overlooked the way he ended last year. And man, it's been even worse. And so to answer your question, obviously can't drop him. If you're thinking about dropping him, trade him for something. Somebody will give you something for him.
Yeah.
The problem with trading him right now is you aren't going to get anywhere close, most likely, to what you had to pay for him in the draft. I mean, this guy was a consensus top 5 pick in most drafts. At minimum, he would have been top 10. But here's the thing. He's on pace right now. I get we're a month in, but he's on pace to be possibly the worst top 5 pick of all time in fantasy baseball.
Yeah.
So here's what I would do if I had him on my fantasy team. I would try to hold on to him for another 2-3 weeks. Let's see if he can somewhat start climbing out of this. If he has a week or two to where he looks really good, that's when you've got a real decision to make. Do you then see if you can recoup kind of value for him and trade him for somebody that you really want? Or again, if he has a big week or two coming up, do you then think, okay, he's back, I'm holding on to him, But what if he reverts back to this mess that he's in right now after a few weeks and just has a little bit of a hot stretch? So you're
Yeah.
really in a conundrum here if you have Corbin Carroll. I would say hold for right now just because you're going to get killed on any kind of value right now. But
Yeah.
I tell you what, if you can get something of value for him right now that you would be happy with, I do not blame anybody right now for bailing and selling slightly low if you can.
Yeah.
I don't think, could be very wrong on this, on what I'm about to say, but I'm just going to say it. I
Okay.
do not think Corbin Carroll is a top 20 player moving forward. I really don't.
Yeah. You can't. I don't think you can do anything with him. I think the only way you move him is like you said. But I think to move him now, I've been knocking on windows and doors, just seeing what it will take,
Yeah.
and some of it's pretty low. A lot of people are just hanging on to the value, saying like, "Hey, he'll bounce back," and he definitely could. And if you're
Yeah, he
asking me,
can.
I think he will. That's why I'm kicking tires on the whole deal. But I mean, he could get sent down, and I don't think it would surprise
Mm-hmm.
anybody. I mean, there's only one more spot that can move him down in the order, and then I don't know how
Who's
much
the guy?
longer.
Let me ask you this real quick.
Here we go.
If you own Corbin Carroll and somebody sends you a trade offer right now,
Mm-hmm.
give me an example of a player or two that you would trade him for
Yeah,
right now on April the 30th or May the 1st.
yeah. So it depends on team needs, but I'm
Yeah.
just looking at outfielders.
Yeah.
I would see about a Judge. But that's the thing. It's like the value is just not going to be there.
Right.
I think it's going to be tough to make a move. I mean, Garcia, Adolis
Yeah.
Garcia, maybe.
Yeah. If you
could
could
do
get
that.
a guy like Adolis Garcia, I would seriously consider that.
Yeah, for
I really
sure.
would.
I mean, past that, I don't think you'll get
Michael
Alvarez.
Harris.
Yeah, I was going to say Michael Harris was the other guy because I
Mhm.
don't think you're going to get an Alvarez. I
I
don't want
agree.
Lubob. Don't want Schwarber.
I agree.
Arozarena could have been our had a bad day player. I mean, he has had a rough
dude,
go.
don't get me started. We're about to talk Rays. He looks so bad too.
Yeah, yeah. We talked about Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Belly's hurt, and then after that, you're getting into like the Reynolds and Evan Carter. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
think the answer is, I think if you go having like owning Corbin Carroll, people are going to know what's going on,
Right.
and you're not going to get the value. I think you kind of have to be patient. I think that's kind of that's the bed you make. Like I drafted him 4th overall in a 16-team league.
Yeah.
And he's they do this least valuable player every week.
Yeah.
He's been my least valuable player.
Oh yeah.
You just gotta compete with it and just trust that your stars are going to be stars. I'm going through this in a lot of leagues. Tatis has not been great.
Yeah.
You're looking at our main man Julio.
Oh yeah.
People are just not performing to the back of their baseball cards yet, and it's just about in head to head, just trying to like mitigate.
Oh yeah.
Trying to win, but not trying to lose big.
Yeah. Minimize damage.
100%. So it doesn't feel good. And it's frustrating because you feel like you do all this work and you feel like you have a pretty good understanding and you drafted everybody with a purpose and then they just don't do their thing.
Yeah.
That is part of it. But for me, go ahead.
And,
I was going to say I would hold.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree. But, there's a fine line there too, and so, I think obviously I think the optimal move in a competitive league is to try to hold just because you're not going to get the value. But I tell you what, man, if I had Corbin Carroll and somebody, kind of thought that there was an opportunity to buy low, and if they did offer me Michael Harris or Adolis Garcia, I'm telling you, I think I would take it. I really do. And you know what? I might slightly lose out on that trade. Maybe. But there's a real good chance that I could win out on that trade because both those guys, Adolis Garcia and Michael Harris, I feel like you pretty much know what you're going to get out of those two guys. Yeah. And here's the thing. With Corbin Carroll, whether you believe in him or you don't believe in him, I think this is a fact that we don't know what Corbin Carroll is right now.
Yeah.
Was he
Yeah.
a flash in the pan for, 90 to 100 games last year? I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I don't see a top 5 overall player. Like, I just don't see it.
Yeah. Well, we talked about him earlier, but Vladdy, had that great year in 21,
Yeah.
and
And
it's
hadn't
looking
sniffed
like
it.
had not even close. It's looking like that was like the outlier,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just going to be a 750 OPS guy who's
Yeah.
poor defensively. I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yep.
I could talk
Yeah.
that all day because it's so interesting. Moving on. What is up in Tampa Bay? Before we dive in, did you see the City Connect jerseys?
I did. And those are awesome.
I think they're fire, man. I mean,
I think they're awesome.
Not to sound like a 14-year-old boy right there, but they are looking pretty sweet. I think that they catapult like all the way up to the top for me. I think those things look now, and I like their alternate jerseys with the Ray on it.
I agree.
I think those look good too.
Yeah.
Okay, now to the not so fun part. The Rays, coming off a 99 win season in 23, have gotten off to a very slow start in 24. 3-7 in their last 10. They are in last place, 14-16 overall. The worst of it, they just got swept
by the White Sox.
By the Chicago White Sox. If you look at the rankings, they're middling on both sides of the ball. 15th in average, 23rd in OPS, 24th in home runs on the offensive side. Pitching, usually that's kind of their deal. 15th in starting pitcher ERA, 26th in relief pitcher ERA.
Yeah.
Fairbanks has had some incredible sound bites. I don't know if you've seen him after blown saves, but he's all but lost that closer role. It's looked weird, man. They have no identity right now, it feels like. Just as a Rays fan, how are you feeling?
Man, I could do a whole show on this topic, so I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can, honestly, because there's a lot to unpack here. But here's I'm going to break it down in just a couple of big thoughts. I would say, number one, as much as, people didn't want to see it or whatnot, if you go back and listen to our preview shows, I kind of had a feeling this might be coming. This year of all years felt like the year that if you were going to get the Rays, this was the year to do it. Because, there's all sorts of things going on here. Let's not forget, their entire starting rotation, if everybody's healthy, forget Tyler Glasnow, who got traded, but basically their entire starting rotation is hurt. So Shane McClanahan, who's arguably the best pitcher in the American League, he's out. Drew Rasmussen, who was really, really good last year, out. Jeffrey Springs, who was awesome last year, breaking out last year, out. Shane Baz has not pitched yet. Taj Bradley has not pitched yet. So I could go on and on. Zach Eflin's the only one from last year that's really, still there and pitching not great but decent. So number one, as much as you don't want to use injuries as a concern, it's a big deal to the Rays because they don't have a big payroll, and that's how they build their whole team is through their starting pitching.
Yeah.
So injuries are a huge part of this. Here's the biggest issue, though, when you really peel back some layers that I see. I feel like this version of the Rays has kind of gotten away from what their identity has been over the last few years and what's really made them successful. So what's really made the Rays successful all of these years is, number one, it's pitching. But the things that don't get really publicized that makes them so good is they play incredible defense. They're always one of the top 2 or 3 baseball teams in all of defensive metrics and all that kind of stuff. This team is not that.
Yeah.
And also their bullpen. When you watch a vintage Rays team these past few years, they bring in, it feels like 8 different guys that can all get key outs. And this team just doesn't have that. And I feel like that the front office has kind of tried to get more dynamic offensively. And I feel like they've lost a little bit of what's really made them successful with defense, pitching, and bullpen. And so let's not forget Wander Franco. You know, obviously he made a awful move off the field and got
Yeah.
what he deserved, but let's not forget when you think you've got a guy coming up in your system that's going to be your franchise cornerstone and all of
Yeah.
a sudden he's gone,
Yeah.
that's a huge deal as well. And
Yeah.
so all of that combined, there's a lot there, I know, but
Yeah.
all of that combined is what I see is going on. And this year, I think they're going to sell at the deadline. I think they're going to retool that farm system. I think they're going to unload any veterans they possibly can that other
Yeah.
teams really want. And then next year they get their horses back in their rotation and they're going to start playing Rays baseball again. But this is the year to beat up on the Rays, in my opinion.
Yeah, dude. Peeling back real quick, I'll say one thing on the Wander Franco thing. The Rays did everything right there.
Yes.
And you know, they drafted this kid, raised him up, number one prospect, signed him to the long-term deal, affordable for a team that's, I mean, everybody can spend money, but they you know don't. They do the low payroll thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for what happened to happen, I mean, that is I think they're still picking up the pieces a little bit like that.
I agree.
Or from that. Dude, the injuries, like you said, are insane. They have a whole rotation on the IL, just like you said, but they got Poche and Fairbanks and Chris Davinsky from the relief corps.
Right.
Those have been guys for them in the past, or guys for other teams.
Yeah.
I believe Davinsky was pretty solid with the Stros for a little bit. What's going on with Yandy Diaz, man? I don't know. And then Randy Rosarina. You want to talk about two guys who have just been awful.
Yeah.
And
Yandy's look bad.
Yeah. You know, you start looking at guys and you're like, they're not even hitting the ball. They're not even like, oh, that should have been a hit. No, these have all been really bad. And yeah, I mean, they brought over Ahmed Rosario and who's the other guy that I was looking at? Oh, Jose Cabanero in the trade. Those guys if they didn't bring those guys over, I think it could be worse. I mean, these guys are coming over. They played pretty well, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me. It's not wired in my brain to give up on these guys. I feel like they're still going to wind up in the wild card race, but people are going to have to get healthy. I mean, Taj Bradley's coming back. He made a rehab start and looked good. So let's see what he looks like. Bright spots, man. Ryan Pepiot might be a guy. He might be a guy.
Yes. I think he's going to be a integral part of what they do over the next few years.
Yeah.
The problem with me is the bullpen's a major problem, and that's never been an issue for the Rays. They're not going to be able to hold leads, and they're not going to be able to score consistently. Like, I mean, I make fun of Seattle, but man, the Rays offense, especially with Yandy Diaz looking as bad as he looks, man, I'm telling you, the Rays, they might be a bottom 3 or 4 offense this year. I'm not kidding. Like, it is really bad. And I actually dropped Yandy Diaz in our league just because, and I love Yandy Diaz, but I just think that he's hitting the ball on the ground a ton again, so he's reverting a little bit back to what he always did before last year, which is not a good sign.
Yeah.
And there's not anybody behind him that's going to be able to protect him or drive him in. And so I don't feel good at all about them offensively.
Yeah. Little preference. 8-team league. So you're looking at everybody needs to be producing. There's really no reason to be holding guys on a roster who are doing what he's doing. So I totally get it. It'd be safe to say he's probably a faller. Let's talk about our rankings, risers and fallers. Will, this is we're gonna have to go with the swiftness because we're knocking on an hour. Thank you guys for being here. We're super excited to be back together doing this. So this is probably why. But some ranking risers and fallers, some risers in the infield, buddy. We got one of each: infield, outfield, starting pitcher. Tell me about your infielder.
Yeah, so infielder for me is C.J. Abrams. Man, I was honestly on the fence with this guy going into the season. I knew there was a lot of talent there, but I wasn't sure if if he was ready yet, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Man, he looks ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this guy, I've been incredibly impressed with what I've seen out of him so far. He's really cut down the strikeouts, which is big for me. He's always going to have power speed combo, and that's only going to get better with more experience. But man, I love what I have seen so far out of CJ Abrams.
Yeah. Walking more. Yeah, he's just it's like another year in the bigs and he's seen the ball a little bit better. Pretty safe to say Washington won that trade with San Diego.
I mean, definitely now with Soto being gone. I mean, my gosh. I mean, if Soto would have stayed long term, then there's obviously an argument there, but absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Hey, my riser, and you're like, this guy probably started pretty high. Gunnar Henderson. All right, talk about a 289. This is your boy. 289 average, him. 10 homers. That's tied for the league lead. 23 RBIs, 25 runs, 6 steals. I had him ranked 6th at shortstop, so you're like, that's pretty dang high. I would put him. Are you sitting down? I got him at 2. I got Mookie 1. I got Gunnar 2. I'll take Bobby Witt 3.
Shortstop.
At shortstop, I like Gunnar. I really do,
dude. I can't argue, man. Gunnar is. You talk about just a flat stud, man. Gunnar is. I mean, I like Bobby Witt too, and those guys are kind of neck and neck in my book. I'd maybe still give just a very slight edge fantasy-wise to Bobby Witt just because of the steals, the raw speed. But, dude, if Gunnar steals like 30 bases this year or more, absolutely, I'm all over it. But Gunnar is amazing.
I like it, dude. Hey, let's talk about outfielders. We got a couple of Braves here. Tell me about your guy.
We do have a couple of Braves. You know what? Mine is Marcell Ozuna. I mean, I had him last year in the second half when he got so hot, and he was unbelievable. And I don't know. I guess everybody thought that was just kind of a fluky, super hot half of the year. But, man, he has picked up right where he left off, and he looks amazing. I watch a lot of Atlanta Braves games because we live down in the South, and they're on all the time. And, I mean, you talk about a guy who just looks locked in, man. Just doesn't miss. Does not miss mistakes.
Yeah.
And obviously plays an unbelievable lineup. And this guy, to me, looks easily like he's going to be a top 30 or 40 player this year. I mean, easily.
Yeah,
so I'm so impressed.
Yeah, that's wild, man. 31 RBIs. This guy is crushing the baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, all green, everything you'd want him to be at. The only thing he doesn't do well, hit the ball on the ground. Yeah, and he's not fast. But line drive rate and fly ball rate are both amongst tops in the league. Yeah, tons to like about that guy. My outfielder, Michael Harris. We mentioned him earlier. 306 average, 3 home runs, 13 RBI, 16 runs, and 5 steals. I ranked him 15th, right in the middle of our steady Eddies. I think we're going to have to talk blue chips next year, man.
He's a stud.
I mean, we'll see how the year progresses, but this guy, he had maybe a little deer in the headlight to begin the season in 23. I think you're looking at a top 24 pick next year, if not like early second round. This guy is going to go, in the second round. So a lot to like there.
You know what he feels like to me? He feels like the anti-Corbin Carroll right now because Michael Harris got off to an awful start last year, turned it around and was amazing in the second half.
Yeah.
Corbin Carroll was the opposite, tore it up in the first half, kind of skidded, second half last year, and it's been even worse this year. So I love Michael Harris.
Dude, kind of make an argument to go buy low on Corbin Carroll,
No, I mean, there is a buy low opportunity, but I'm not convinced that he's going to be a surefire superstar like what a lot of people thought he was.
That's true. Sorry, D-backs Nation. Let's talk about starting pitchers, buddy. Our last couple of risers here. What do you got?
Starting pitching, interesting. We kind of thought going into the year that it was a wild card. It kind of has been a wild card. But
Mhm.
I had to go with two right here that have really impressed me. One kind of off the radar, one not so much. So Logan Gilbert,
Mhm.
Seattle Mariners, he looks like a guy who's easily top 10 starting pitcher moving forward to me.
Mhm.
Pitches in a pitcher's ballpark, which is obviously helpful, but I love the strikeout to walk ratio. Everybody talks about George Kirby. I think Logan Gilbert's better than George Kirby. I really do. I really do. I
Whoa.
really do. I think Logan Gilbert is better than George Kirby.
Yeah.
I
That
really
bringing the heat take. That's the hot take of the show. That is
yes
brought to you by Flaming Hot Cheetos Frito Lay. If it's not Frito
yes.
Lay, it's the wrong way. Okay, well,
That's a sponsor plug if I've ever heard one.
that's what
I
I'm
mean,
talking about.
here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on George Kirby. I think George Kirby's
Sure.
really good.
Yeah.
But man, I really believe that Logan Gilbert has turned a corner. Not that he was bad his first couple of seasons, but he looks really good to me. And the strikeout to walk ratio is huge. That's something that I look at
Mm-hmm.
very regularly, and it's up there. And again, pitcher's ballpark. I love what I've seen out of Logan Gilbert. I really believe he's a top 10 guy as we move forward. And then my other guy that I want to shout out is Ranger Suarez. Talk
Yeah.
about a guy who feels like he's kind of came out of nowhere, but he's been good, honestly, under the radar for a while. But this year really just feels like a coming out party. Plays
Mm-hmm.
on an incredible team in Philadelphia. And I just kind of hope that he keeps this up. Like, I think it's awesome. And, if you've got him, it might be a sell high
I was just
moment
about to say.
depending on what you get for
Yeah.
him. But
Yep.
I tell you what, I don't think he's going to be bad the rest of the way. Like, I think he's going to be very good, but I do think there's a sell high window right now.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't have said better myself. Yeah, I would look to move him. Look, he's been unbelievable. But I do think at some point
Yeah.
he'll come back down to earth a little bit. I just
Yeah.
don't believe in this stuff as much as other people.
Yeah.
But hey, he's a lot of people probably could have picked him up off of waivers. So nothing wrong with that. My pitching riser, Tarek Skubal, man. I don't know.
Yes.
The question with this guy was always, can he stay healthy?
Yep.
And through 4 starts, he's 4-0, a 1.72 ERA, 0.74 WHIP, 41 Ks, and 36.2 innings. Listen, when he's on, it's almost like there's no way you're hitting this guy.
Yep.
He'll make like a mistake a game, and then that's where the minuscule ERA comes from. This guy, if he stays healthy, he's going to be a top 5 starting pitcher. We had him.
I agree.
I had him ranked like 15th to 17th, but he belongs around the Wheeler ranks, the Gossman ranks. I'd have.
Is he the best? Is he the best pitcher in the American League right now?
Okay, let me think. Well, that's a good question. Just combing through. Alek Manoah hasn't pitched this year, so he would he would be my answer.
Corbin Burns.
Yeah, maybe Corbin Burns. I would, Cole Ray Guns. He's got roughed up a little bit. But so I would say he might be the front runner. I feel like there might be somebody I'm forgetting, but I think.
Gossman's up there now that he's looking good again. But dude, I'm not sure. If I was in just an AL only league, I'm not sure he wouldn't be the best pitcher on the board. Like I'm a believer in Tarek Skubal.
Tanner Houck.
Hey, dude. Hey, all kidding aside, he looks legit to me too.
Yeah, he figured out the splitter thing. Like he's never been able to control the splitter. Like, not that he can't control it, but he just can't put it like at the bottom of the zone breaking down. And this year he's looked unbelievable.
He's looked great.
He's so good, dude.
But I love Tarek Skubal. I really do. I second everything you said there.
Yeah, he's nasty, dude. I watched the game against the Royals the other day. I'm paternity leave, guys. Watching a lot of baseball. Shout out to my sweet wife and the baby. It's been the best. But anyway, he's nasty. Tell you what's not nasty. These fallers, man. And these are guys that people put some serious draft capital into. I feel like we really mirrored each other here looking at this. Is so funny. Hey, let's talk about it. The infielder. We got a couple of first basemen. Go.
This one pains me.
Uh-huh.
This one really does pain me. But Father Time remains undefeated.
Yeah.
And I've always said, until somebody shows me that they're declining, I'll believe it when I start to see it. Well, I'm starting to believe it with this guy. Paul
Yeah.
Goldschmidt. Talk about a guy who has, I've said this before, I think he's one of the most underrated ball players of this generation of players.
Mm-hmm.
He's been that good for the better part of 10, 15 years. But man, he don't look the same anymore.
Mm-mm.
He just does not look the same. I'm not saying he's done yet, but man, I think obviously the MVP year of a year or two ago, I just think that's way far in the mirror at this point. You're looking at a guy that at best is just going to be a serviceable first baseman,
Mm-hmm.
but for him to be just a foundational piece for your fantasy team like he's been for the past 10 years, I don't think that's happening anymore. And as much as I hate to say it, and I love Paul Goldschmidt, he just don't look the same anymore, and it's kind of sad, but I have to throw that out there.
The weirdest thing to me, he's getting beat on velo. You know what I mean? And I saw him strike out today, fastball, just right down the middle. And
that's why I think it's age.
It's just like, what are we, like, we're just a tick. I feel like once you're not, once you take that step back, then you're guessing a little bit more than you probably did before. Then starts getting out of whack. Maybe that lead shoulder starts bleeding out a little bit, and he's just looked really bad. He's looked really bad. Yeah. If you drafted him to be your first baseman, if you waited, I hope you paired him with like a, I don't know, well, I was gonna say Vinny P. I hope you didn't draft those two. I hope that wasn't your plan.
Alec Bohm.
Alec Bohm. Throw him in there, or maybe like a Naylor, Josh. Naylor. I don't know, dude.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he's a hole. He's a black hole on your team right now for sure. If you have to start him, Vladimir Guerrero. He's my faller.
Yeah.
He was a Friends blue chip guy in my rankings. I think I had him as the first steady Eddie.
Yep.
He's just been, we talked about 228 average, 3 home runs, 11 RBI, still crushing the ball into the ground, just doing the same thing. Can't get any lift on the ball. His OPS, 684.
Yep.
He's, listen, under team control for one more year. I think he's going to walk in free agency and we'll see what happens. But he's turned into a guy who we're just going to look back and be like, wow, what an incredible rookie year.
Uh-huh.
People don't remember this. They played the home games in
Buffalo.
100%, dude, and that's not the same. You're not.
Right.
It's a different setup, man. And so I wonder how much that played a role.
That's true.
But, yeah, dude.
So let me ask you this real quick.
Vladdy. Here we go.
If you have Vlad Jr. on your fantasy team, what are you doing?
I listen. I had them all last year, and I just was like, I can't do it again. I don't want to do it again.
So what's your advice, though? If somebody has Vlad Jr., what do you got to do?
Here, this would be my advice, okay? I would do the dead cat bounce kind of trade, just like you talked about. Just, when he goes up, try and spin him for something. There are first basemen out there doing big things.
Yeah.
I'm not a believer in him. I don't know. You got to get something out of him, but I just don't think – I don't know how much higher – I mean, I remember we talked about him in last year, and it was like, yeah, his floor is so high. I don't even know his floor is that high anymore.
No, it's not.
It's just not, man. And I don't know if he needs like a change of scenery. I feel like you could say that for everybody in the Blue Jays lineup.
Yeah. You know what I would do if I have Vlad Jr.?
Here we go.
I'd be trying to move him so fast. Like I would, if I could get, and I'm just naming names right now, but if I could get, especially in a deeper league, like let's say it's a 12-team league, if I had Vlad Jr., if I could get a guy like Josh Naylor plus a good pitcher, like I'm just throwing out names. If I traded Vlad Jr. for Josh Naylor and I don't know, Zach Eflin,
yeah,
I'd take it.
You do that, yeah. Or like a Christian Walker. Maybe I try
Yes.
and I mean he's somebody who I don't know. There's just not a lot to. You'd have to. That's the thing. It's like it's hard to me when you have the chip that is the buy low.
Yeah.
It's tough to me to like go to somebody and say like, hey, listen, I have Vlad looking to trade him. Like in no world, if he's playing like the guy we think he should be, anybody would do that. And so it seems pretty transparent. I think you're going to lose some value there. But to me, it's just so hard to have him like, because you're going to start him. You're going to
But
start him.
but here's
And
the thing. Here's
here we
the
go.
thing though. Like if you're not in a roto league to where it's basically all season long, you know, counting stats, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a head-to-head league and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting for this guy and you're starting him because you don't have another option at first base.
Yeah.
If you're just waiting and you're losing week after week after week, like, yeah, he might eventually turn it around, but guess what? You're going to be so far out of the playoff standings in a competitive league that even if he does turn it around, you've wasted half the year just hoping that he's going to figure it out. And so, like, I get the whole buy low thing, but at some point there has to be a sense of urgency and be like, man, this guy's killing my team. And so I'm willing to take a little bit of a hit on value in order to just try to jumpstart and win in some matchups. And so, you know, don't forget, you know, as much as the back of the baseball card don't lie sometimes, your eyes have to also tell you, man, this guy ain't doing jack squat and he's killing me and I got to start winning or I'm going to not make the playoffs. And so there's a fine line there.
No doubt. Here's the deal, man. If you're looking for help at first base, I don't think you're alone, especially in like a 12-team league.
Yeah.
Or like a 12-14. Listen to this, man. I mean, you got guys. Okay, you got Vlad. What about Paul Goldschmidt? He's ranked after him having issues there. Tristan Casas out for the foreseeable
long time.
future. Yep. Spencer Torkelson, Yandy Diaz, CES hasn't gotten going yet. You have to go all the way to number 12. That's Josh Naylor. He's having a pretty good go at things.
He's good.
Reese Hoskins has shown flashes, but the numbers don't look great. Vinny P, I think, is like 0 for
awful
ever. He's been so bad. I've never seen anybody be so bad but still not strike out. Nathaniel Lowe back from injury. It's so weird. Like he'll still walk. He will walk, but he will not. He's just grounding out a bunch of times or like popping out. It's crazy. Andrew Vaughn. And then you're at Justin Turner. So now, you know, dude, first base, if you got a guy at first base, you know, if you got a Harper, Olsen, a Freeman, Alonso,
it's huge.
Dude, and we talked about this a couple years ago. Like it's just the deepest position, but there's so many guys underperforming. I mean,
you know what's crazy about this, and I know we need to move on, but a guy like Sal Perez in some leagues has first base eligibility.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen before a catcher who's got also first base eligibility that you would actually use him at first base.
Yeah,
dude, if you have Sal Perez and you have another decent catcher, it would make sense to put him at first base.
Yeah, I'm not kidding you. You're laughing, dude. I have Vinny P in our league. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah,
I've been playing Yanier Diaz.
Yes,
at first, and I picked up Contreras.
Yes,
you know, the older Contreras, and put him at catcher because it's just like you can't win with them. You can't play with them, dude.
Yeah.
Moving on to a couple guys who are still struggling. We talked about your guy earlier. Let's look at the outfield, man. Take it away.
Yeah, so I've got, I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but Corbin Carroll. I mean, guy who was picked top 5 overall in most leagues and has been probably on a lot of teams that he's on, has been literally the worst player. And so, you know, we talked earlier about what kind of we would do, ran through some hypotheticals there. But again, just like what I said earlier, like I get trying to ride him out for another couple of weeks, but at some point, man, especially if you're at the bottom of the standings, you got to do something.
That's true.
So, you know, and so, you know, anyways, it's tough. for the game of baseball, we need to see a talent like this start to perform. So here's hoping he starts to turn it around a little bit. But man, I could not be more down on Corbin Carroll, and I don't own him. I don't have any shares of Corbin Carroll on my fantasy teams this year. But man, if I did, dude, it would be a tough spot. I would for sure know that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you about it, man. It's not been fun. Here's the deal, though. It's not a one team. This is what I tell myself. All right, not a one. It is your star player. You drafted him in the first round.
Yeah,
but I'm not subscribing to the fact that if you don't hit on your friend, you need to. It's helpful, but you draft 25 other guys or 29 other guys or however many big the league is. So, if you have Corbin, doesn't mean you can't win. Does mean it's going to be difficult, and it means you have more hope than someone who drafted, I don't know, say Strider, who's not coming back.
Right.
But maybe more of a decision as well. It's like, what do I do with this guy? Like Strider, you just drop him. I'll see you in 24.
Right.
My outfielder, this is a guy who, listen, the underlying numbers last year made it feel like it could be a little bit of a fluke.
Yeah.
But Nolan Jones, I don't think anybody. I mean, these hitters that go to Colorado and you're like, they're going to hit 40 home runs. And it's just like Chris Bryant, this Nolan Jones character.
Yeah.
They're not doing it, man. And, good for Todd Helton for getting in the Hall of Fame because these guys are proving the fact that just because you play in course doesn't mean you're going to mash the ball all the time. How about a 170 average, 1 home run, 7 RBIs? He stole 2 bags. He scored 11 runs, which is probably like 50% of the runs the Rockies have scored this year. But I just said Rockies are going to Rocky. I don't know. I never was a believer in this guy because the BABIP didn't look good. Hard hit stuff didn't look good.
Yeah.
And I just I don't know, the quality of contact and walk rate, strikeout rate, just didn't love it. But and I don't know. You just play for the Rockies. I don't know. Get traded to like a team in the East that actually, I don't know, can have a team that plays well. I
agree, and it's just amazing. To your point, dude, I've seen the Rockies play a little bit, and I am amazed at how bad that lineup is.
Yeah.
I mean, Elias Diaz, their catcher, in my opinion, is by far their best player.
Yeah.
And I am amazed at how bad that lineup is. Like, I never thought I would see the day to where I saw a Colorado Rockies team playing in Coors Field that honestly struggles to score runs there.
They can't pitch or hit. That's a tough watch. It just is.
Yes.
Speaking of guys who are struggling to pitch, man, I love your pick. Tell me about him.
Yeah. You know what? There were a few guys that I could have put on this list, but kind of the guy that really stood out to me was Joe Musgrove. I mean, this has been a guy up until last year when he was kind of dealing with some injury problems. This was a guy who, for the previous 3-4 years, he might not have been anybody's superstar, but if you drafted Joe Musgrove, you knew exactly what you were going to get, man. Every start, he was going to give you a quality start. Mix in some good strikeout numbers, just consistent, man. And now that he's supposedly healthy, I thought, maybe we'll get another year or two of the really good Joe Musgrove. And no. I mean, he's got over a 6 ERA. I think his whip's like 1.6 or 1.7 or something really bad. And he just has not looked good. Can't locate his pitches. The velocity's never been a strong suit. So it just looks bad. I mean, this is a guy that just purely on name recognition might have a little bit of trade value left if you catch a guy. But, dude, this guy, to me, give him another start or two. But if he doesn't do anything in the next start or two, I would say cut bait. I don't see it.
Yeah. Listen, you're talking to the guy who's president of the Don't Cut People who have a track record, but he reminds me a lot of Luis Severino of a couple of years ago. I remember us talking about how it just felt like his stuff is flat. Like he can throw hard, fine, but the slider just doesn't look. It's just getting smashed. This guy has had about as tough a year as you could have. You definitely cannot start him. I mean,
no,
unless you have to. You can't. He's been so bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's been so bad, and I mean, yeah, you run into a buzzsaw that is the Phillies. I'll give him that, but you know, he's also getting crushed against other teams. So. I don't know. I'm not big on Musgrove. I know people who are like trying to buy low. Probably not very hard. Okay. I would just say, you know, take somebody, whoever you'd cut to pick up Musgroves and just offer them to the owner and see what happens. But good luck. And
man, if somebody sent me a trade offer for Joe Musgrove, I couldn't get to the accept button fast enough.
Like it almost doesn't matter. It almost does not matter. Yep. You'll have to package him with another one of your players to get him off your team.
Right.
It'll be like a Stanton situation in real life.
Yes.
Our last guy, my last guy, Blake Snell. This is a dude, won the Cy Young last year. We all talked about it. He's got a roller coaster of a career, you know, where he'll look really, really incredible for 2 seasons. Took home the hardware both years. Maybe a little bit of a Scott Boras victim he didn't have a normal ramp up to this season. Comes out, first 3 starts, 0-3 with an 11.75 ERA, a 1.97 whip. That's almost a whip of 2. Now he's got a groin strain, grade 2 adductor strain. I don't know what the timeline is for this guy. Could have looked it up, didn't care to, would not. People are going to listen. He might have this is why fantasy baseball is awesome. Yeah. He might like come back and have just an absolute stellar second half.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. He's looked pretty tough, but everything looks, you know, if you peel back who it is, like, listen, you're going to San Francisco. They have somewhat of a pitching laboratory over there. Good ballpark for it. Obviously, we've seen this stuff. He's still striking out people. He's just also walking people and giving up a lot of hits. So I don't know anything on Blake Snell.
He's about as tough as they come as far as like trying to figure him out. Obviously the start's really bad. I mean, I do think it's a slight buy low window, especially if you're needing like a strikeouts guy, because I think you'll always have that.
Yeah.
But man, the whip is what's tough for me, because even last year, like, he walked so many guys, and he won the Cy Young last year. So you know how amazing of a year he had, but he still walked a ton of guys. And so you felt like if he did exactly what he did a year ago, that he was going to regress, because everything else was unsustainable as far as stranding runners and all that. So anyways, I do think it's a slight buy low opportunity, but if you're expecting Blake Snell from a year ago, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. So temper your expectations.
Yeah. Would you rather have Snell or Musgrove?
Snell.
Yeah, same here. That's not that tough of a question.
No.
I got a question for you, Will. Do you have a light?
A light? Oh. Yes.
Everybody stand back. You know, we're 2 fathers now. We're 2 Padres, not just one. So now we got to be super protective of the kids. Okay, you guys stand back.
Yeah.
We're going to do the Roman candle. Pick to click player of the week. Last week, the week 3 results. Will went with Bryce Harper. What about 8 for 28, 8 walks, 1 double, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, a 968 OPS. I did this over 10 days. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Over 10 days, because guess what? We weren't here to talk about it. So I stretched out our time trying to, you know, help myself, because I had Vladdy 11 for 46, 3 doubles, 3 walks, 3 RBIs, a 630 OPS. We got to give it to you. Not because he had 8 walks, not because he had 2 homers, not because he had 7 RBIs, but because Bryce Harper also had a kid.
Yes.
Came back, went on the paternity list, came back and just hit a bunch of home runs. So shout out to he and his family. It's very exciting. Less exciting for me. The series is tied at 1, but we're back on. It's week 4 time. And, we're being a goldfish. We're wiping the slate clean, and we're coming back. We're going to win. Okay. And we got 2 former Red Sox.
We do.
Going head to head. Going head to head. Yeah. Tell me about your pick, buddy. I love it.
We both have 2 aging Red Sox.
Yeah. I take them both on the team right now. I just want to raise my hand and say,
right? They can both still hit. So, mine's Justin Turner. We talked about this guy a little bit earlier. Just even at an advanced age, man, just looks like just a pure hitter still, hitting in the middle of that Blue Jays lineup. Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette gets all the headlines, and they underperform. All Justin Turner does is come in, does what he always does, and he's looked like the best player on that team, aside from a couple of their pitchers. And so, anyways, I'm going to go Justin Turner this week. I think he's going to have another really good week, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. I love it, dude. I think he's just the timeless one. You said time's undefeated. Well, it hadn't come for this guy yet.
That's true.
He just rakes. Just rakes, dude. I went with JD Martinez. Kind of funny. They had kind of reverse careers, you know. JD was Red Sox, went to the Dodgers for a year. Justin Turner, Dodger, went to the Red Sox for a year. Now they're both playing different places for third place teams. Very fun. Made his season debut, Martinez did last week for the Mets. Popped him right in the 4-hole. They're going to look for him to produce, and I'm going to look for him to offensively produce. Put me back in front of this series, Will. What do you got on that?
I like it, man. JD Martinez can still hit, man. And the Mets, surprisingly, they're a little better than I thought they were going to be. I don't know if what they're currently, this kind of hot streak they're going through, I don't know if that's sustainable. They feel kind of like a 500 team to me. But I do think that him and Pete Alonso in the middle of that lineup, they at least should be able to score some runs, and we'll see kind of what the rest of that team does.
Yep. I'm with you, man. It's going to be fun. I feel like they're going to be one of the fun teams to watch. Like, are they going to sell some pieces? And then what are they going to do with Alonso? And
right.
Guys, if you want to find out, just keep it tuned in here. We are going to do the best we can. Obviously, time is not something I feel like I have abundance of anymore. So trying to facilitate this and write these outlines and these episodes, keep up with baseball, it's a little tricky right now. Anybody who's had a newborn can understand, and it probably has a little grace for me, and it's greatly appreciated. But we have such a great time doing this. It's not going to stop. I just don't know the schedule right now. So we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. We're at like the hour 30 mark on our timer. So we're probably like, 127 on the show itself. That is awesome. Reach out to us on Twitter. Let us know how week 4 is going. If you have any questions, if you'd like to just start a chat about how, the offense has been tough. Okay. And nobody wants to hit on your team. So right now you're just trying to keep it close. I'm here for you. I'm your guy. If you want to talk to somebody who got literally 20 hits in one night, you talk to Will. Talk to the guy to the right or left of me on screen. He texted me that. I was like, dude, that's unreal. That's more hits than I have all week. So, but it's a long season. It's a marathon, not a sprint, guys. Check us out on YouTube. Bringing the Heat. Leave us a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment if you have any questions. Guys, we just love you. We really appreciate you. But until next time, thanks for listening to episode 78 of Bringing the Heat.